Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for Email Marketing for 2011. My name is Jill Bastian, and I'm the Training and Education Manager here at Vertical Response. Just a couple of things before we get started. This webinar will have a Q&A at the end, so if you think of some questions along the way, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in the GoToWebinar window, and I'll be happy to answer as many of those as I can at the end. One of the most popular questions we get at our webinars, and if you've ever been to one before, you've heard me say this, is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, I am recording this. So once the webinar's over, I'll be able to put that up on our recorded webinar site, and you can access it there later today or maybe tomorrow. It depends how busy my afternoon gets. Yeah, that will be available later. I'm sure people will ask that a little bit later in the webinar as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. This is the agenda that we're going to go through today. I'm going to go over some tips of some things that you can make changes to your emails that you're doing right now to bring them into 2011. I'm also going to include a little information on including social media in your email marketing. Hopefully all of you are doing social media at this point. We've done lots of webinars and blog posts and guides and all kinds of things related to social media, so hopefully you're all doing that now. I do have lots of examples for you to help understand what I'm talking about and inspire you to start doing this with your own email marketing. I have a little bit about mobile phones. That is something to keep in mind for the current email marketing world. And then I have some slides with resources available for you, and then as I said, we will do a Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is preheader text. And preheader text is something that we really recommend that you do, and I've noticed that not a lot of people are doing right now. This will come into play a little bit later in the webinar. But preheader text is basically the first line of text in your email campaign. Preheader usually refers to the information that comes before the header of your email. So before the, excuse me, before the hold on just a second. Okay, I'm hoping you guys can hear me. My phone is making some beeping sounds that it doesn't usually make. And I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if that's a go-to thing or not. All right, you guys can hear me. So I don't know what the beeping sound is, but I'll just pretend I don't hear it. Anyways, let's go back to preheader text. So preheader text is usually text that's set up before the header for your email, so before the logo shows up. In the examples I have here on this slide, the first one shows what the preheader text looks like in an inbox. So you can see the subject line, Email Award Winners Announced, and then the text right after that says New Guide, Event Marketing for Your Business. So that's the preheader text, and preheader text works in conjunction with your subject line. So it gives a little more information about what's going on with your email campaign. And it's usually something that's supplemental, so it's not repeating your subject line. It's something in addition to your subject line, something that makes it a little more powerful. This will help your email stand out in the inbox. Also, if you turn that into a link, that will or can increase click-through rate. This is something that we've started doing in our own newsletters, so if you do subscribe to the VR Buzz, you probably have seen this. And when we include a link in there, we see pretty high click-through rates on that particular link. The reason is, of course, that's the very first link that people are seeing, so it's something that's really easy for our recipients to click on. So definitely start using preheader text. Again, it helps your emails stand out in the inbox. So here's an example of another newsletter that's not ours that has preheader text. So again, at the top of the screen, you can see what the subject line is. It says Fashion Event, Select Duvet Covers on Sale. And then the preheader text says Spring Ahead with the latest duvet covers. And then you can see what it looks like when it's open. So you can see the arrow on the left-hand side of the screen is pointing at the pre-header text, and that's a link that actually goes to their website where you can start shopping. And they also have a nice social sharing button on the email there as well. So another thing to keep in mind for your emails are links. And you're probably thinking, I put links in my email, but the majority of the emails that I see tend not to have enough links in them. You want to make sure that you're giving your recipients plenty of chances to get to your website to do whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do. So if you're wanting them to make a purchase, sign up for an event, make a donation to your organization, whatever it is that your call to action is, that whatever it is you want them to do, give them a lot of opportunities to do that. Make sure you're including links to your images or behind your images. Most people know that if they click on an image that it will take them somewhere, so let them. Make sure your logo has a link. Make sure any of the images within the body of your email have links. So if your recipients choose to click on those, they'll be able to go to your site and do what you want them to do. The one thing to keep in mind with that is if you're showing a picture of a product, make sure your link takes them right to that product page on your site. You don't want to just drop them at your website and make them try to find it. So make sure your links are going where your recipients are going to expect them to go. Including links also helps your recipients to read longer articles easily. By showing just a few lines of text from your whatever article you're linking to, you can then link to the website wherever it is, blog, wherever the rest of the article is, and then they can read it easily on a website. That also allows you to have a more compact email, making it easier for your recipients to find what it is that they need in your email. And then also make sure you're including links to Twitter or Facebook and allowing your recipients to continue the conversation. Whatever's going on social media, including a link in your email will allow them to continue to carry on that conversation. Another thing to keep in mind is call to action buttons. And I just mentioned a minute or so ago call to action, which is what you want your recipients to do. So if you want them to make a purchase, if you want them to download something, if you want them to click on something, whatever it is you're trying to get them to do, you have your call to action button to do that. I have some examples here at the top of this slide. Register today and download today. Those are some call to action buttons. They make it easier for your recipients to click because they're big. They're also very eye-catching. It's something that's going to draw your recipients' eyes to wherever it is that you put this call to action button. Again, this is also going to come into play a little bit later in the webinar. We did our own internal testing. And again, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you sometimes might see some of the tests that we run on our own email marketing. But we started adding call to action buttons about a year and a half or so ago to our emails. And we did a test and discovered that we had a 26% increase on our click-through rates when we included call to action buttons. People like to click on buttons. Again, they're very easy to see and they're very easy to click on. That just happens to be our own statistic when we did a little measurement on our responses to our emails. Your responses could be different. It just depends on your recipients. But it's definitely something you want to test out in your email. I included a link here to performable.com/buttons. This is a website where you can go and make your buttons look however you want. These are examples of some performable buttons. You can write what you want them to say. You can select the color and even the style. Now the buttons on this page are actually set up to work on websites, and so the HTML code that they give you won't work in an email that has JavaScript in it. But you can just take a screenshot of your button that you create and then use that in your email. And then at the bottom of this screen here is an example of a couple of things. At the very top, again, you can see the pre-header text. They do a really good job with pre-header text. It gives a time frame, so it says limited time only, save 15% on dinner time essentials. So it's supplemental to what their subject line said. It's additional information, plus they're telling you what the percent off is, and they even have the promo code there right at the very top of their email. On the right-hand side, the arrow on the right, you can see they have some social sharing buttons to make it easy for their recipients to share it with anyone who's following them or interested in what their friends are saying. And then the other part of this email where it says easy weeknight meals, they have lots of links here. So in addition to having a link in their pre-header text, they also have links in this first paragraph. So it might be hard for you to see, but where it says starters, sauces, and finishing sauces, those are all links, and those are all links that go to specific parts of their website, also related to the rest of the information in this email. And then with the yellow circle there, they have a call to action button, shop and save 15%. So you can click the button and go and take a look at the things that they had on sale. Now, the really great part of this, besides all of the things that I just mentioned, because this is a really good example of an email, is that all of this information, what's on sale, the price, how much you're going to save, all of this stuff, and the code is all in text. It's not an image. So even if my email client is blocking images, as you probably know most of them do that by default, even if it's blocking images, the recipients are still going to see all of this information. So they're still going to see what the sale's about, what's on sale, and what the promo code is, even if they don't see the images, and they can click through to the website to see more information. So here's an example of some of the things I just talked about from our newsletter. Again, this is what I was talking about. We have the call to action buttons, and they say read more. We've also set up quite a few links in here. So you'll notice the start of the excuse me, the start of each paragraph has a link where our readers can go and read more online. The call to action button is the same thing, just depends which they would prefer to click on, a link or a button, and we give them both choices. There's links within the text, and then we also have links to share this information on Twitter or Facebook. So those are some examples of how you can set that up in your own email of some of the things I was just talking about. So you want to include ways in your email for your recipients to share it. One of the things that you can do with the email is include a forward to a friend or forward to a colleague link. Most of the templates, if you're using the templates in our system, have this built in already, but you can easily add it into your email just by clicking where you want it to go and then clicking on the drop-down menu that says Insert. And that doesn't matter which one you're using, Wizard, Canvas, or Freeform, you have that Insert drop-down menu, and then you can insert the forward to a friend link. This is free for you to put in there, and when your recipients get the email, they can click on this link, enter in whoever they want to share the email with, their email address, and the person who receives this forwarded email will be able to be added to your mailing list. So not only does it make it easy for your recipients to share it with people they think will be interested, those people can also add themselves to your mailing list. So that's a really easy way for you to not only spread the word, but also to grow your mailing list. Another thing that we give you is to share your email on Facebook and Twitter. So in your VR account, once your email's gone out, you can share it on Twitter or Facebook by clicking the social sharing link. There's a little link on the dashboard where you can share that. Our system will make a hosted version of your email, so anyone who sees this on social media will be able to click on the links in the email, but we pull out that footer where the unsubscribed stuff is. So we have a hosted version. We take your subject line, and then that's your post. But you can go in and edit that. So if you want the post to say something slightly different, you can do that. And then you can post it on Facebook or Twitter. And the people following you on any of those social media platforms will be able to see the email, click on the links, go to your site to make a purchase, whatever it is you're trying to get them to do, they'll be able to do that. The other great thing is that they can also see it from your page and share it as well. So anybody in your network can share it. Plus, anyone who's doing a search on social media for information on your company or a company like yours, if your company comes up, they're going to be able to see the information from your newsletter there. So I have some examples. Here's an example of a link in an email where you can share it with a friend, so you can forward that email to someone else. And here's one that I really like. This was at the bottom of someone's email, and it says forward this email or share. So you can share it on Facebook, you can share it on a blog, or you can forward the email. Plus, they also have their social media icons built into here as well. So this is great. They're making it really, really easy for their recipients to share this email anywhere they might want to. Some people are interested in Facebook, some people are interested in Twitter, some people have blogs. Anywhere that somebody might want to share it, they're making it really easy for them to do that. That's a great example. So I talked a little bit about putting images in your email and making sure they're linked, but you do want to make sure that you are including images and logos in your email. I'm sure most people, if you have a logo, probably are including that in your email, but it's important. It helps your recipients know that they're looking at the email they intended when they open it, especially if they're looking at it on a mobile phone. Images also help to break up your email. So if you have large blocks of text in your email, then images help make it a little more easy to read. It breaks it up and makes it a little easier on the eyes to scan through what your email says. You want to make sure that your email has a balance of text and images. Generally speaking, we would recommend about 80% of your email be text and 20% be images. It's kind of up to you. You know, sometimes you might just need to have something more like 60-40. Maybe you had an event and you wanted to include some more images. Maybe you are an art gallery and you need to include some more images. I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, but even if your recipients receive an email that has the images blocked, you want them to be able to read what's going on in your email. That's why you want to have a balance. You also want to keep in mind that not everyone has a fast internet connection. And if they have to wait for large images to download or numerous images to download, they may get impatient and not wait for that and move on to another email. So don't make it hard for your recipients to read by having too many images. And again, link your images. It's really important. Again, most people know that they can click on an image and go somewhere, so you should let them do that. And then the last thing I would mention also is to make sure that you're using alt text. Alt text is something that's set up behind your image. You don't really see it unless the image is blocked by an email program. So again, you've all probably seen that before. Most email programs these days have a default setting that images are blocked. So instead of having your recipient see a broken image icon, alt text will allow you to have a little more information that's being communicated to them. So it's an opportunity for you to be able to say, I mean, you could put your company name in there. You could put the name of your image. I could call the one at the top of mine Tower Bridge because that's a picture of Tower Bridge. But it is also another opportunity for you to be able to reach your recipients with more information on what's going on in the email. So you could say, May sale continues through the end of the week, or whatever the content or call to action of your email is. You could include that information in your alt text so that even if images are blocked, your recipients know what's going on. And it could also help drive them to turn the images on in their email so they can see what's going on. To set up alt text, anytime you're putting an image in an email, so if you're using the wizard or you're using the Canvas tool, you'll have that window that comes up that says Properties. The last box on the Properties window for your image is alt text, and it says alt text on there, so you should be able to see that. And that's where you can set up the alt text for your images in your email. So here's an example of an email that has a nice balance of text and images. Obviously, the header at the top is an image, and actually the part that says save the date is an image, but the rest of the email that you can see here in the screenshot is text. So it has the ticket information for this particular show is in text, as well as the prices. There's a link there to go to the website to purchase the tickets. On the left-hand side, it talks about saving the date. It talks about what this is going to be, as well as the name of the CD and everything. So most of the information about this event is actually in text. They have some nice images, but if these images are being blocked, the recipients are still going to be able to see the important information about what's happening and when it's happening and how much it's going to cost. So all of the stuff that they're trying to get to their recipients, the information about this show, are all going to be available to anyone, even if their images are being blocked. So as I mentioned a little bit throughout the slides and also at the very beginning, Social media is something that's become really prevalent in our society in general, and definitely in marketing. So hopefully you guys are all using Twitter and Facebook at the very least, if not LinkedIn. Um, so using social media in every email will help to spread your social media presence. More people will see that you have those links in your email as you're sending them out, and they'll start following you on whatever their favorite platform is. So if you're on Facebook and Twitter, people have certain preferences. They like certain things. Some people like Facebook more, some people like Twitter more. So if they're following you in either one of those places, they'll be able to get the information that they want to see. And then also by being on social media, it allows your followers to share your information as well. So it can spread to their network the information that you're trying to get out there. So it's an easy way for you to help increase your business, people coming to your site, just by doing a little extra in social media. Sometimes your recipients may not be all that excited, or maybe they are, about social media. So sometimes you want to give them an incentive to click through to your social media page. And I have actually some examples of things that people have done. But generally speaking, you want to make sure that they understand what the benefit is for them by going to social media, following you on Facebook or Twitter or wherever they're following you. Give them a benefit. It's also a great way for you to grow your mailing list. Again, your information is being shared by a large amount of people out in the internet, and it makes it easy for them to sign up to be on your list if they can see that. So include on your blog, on your Facebook page, um, a opt-in form. Again, we have an opt-in form in our system, but include that type of information in your email as well. You can include a link where people can sign up to be on your mailing list. So if your email is being shared on social media, they can still click on a link within the email to sign up to be on your list. And that's especially good for people who might be following you on Twitter. Since Twitter has the character limit, it's harder for people to put information like signing up to be on a mailing list, for example, or opt-in form on Twitter. But including a link in the email itself makes it easier, so you can share the email on Twitter, and then the people following you who see it can click to be added to your mailing list. So here's some examples of people using social media in their emails. This particular company does cell phone covers. You can probably see that in the pictures. And they have a contest. What kind of a contest? For each week, they give away one of their cell phone covers to people who are following them on Twitter or Facebook. Probably doesn't cost them very much, and it's a great way for them to increase their social following. So just by having these buttons in here, people can follow them on Facebook or Twitter and be entered in to win their own Facebook, or sorry, their own cell phone cover. That's a really good example to get people to click through and follow you on social media. This is another company that has lots of social media icons. They have them at the top and they have them at the bottom to get people to follow them. At the bottom, they also say to get the the latest news and discounts on their products, you can follow them on Facebook and Twitter. This one is one of my favorite examples. This example is one of our customers who actually sent out an email with a specific invite to their mailing list to ask people to follow them on Facebook. And not only did they ask them to follow them on Facebook, they told them exactly what they were going to get if they did that. So they were going to have a daily special on their Facebook page, and people just had to follow them on Facebook, and they would be able to see what the deal was. And they give examples of what some of the things are that could be coming up on their Facebook page. There was no kind of coupon that was needed for this. All they had to do was follow them on Facebook. And this company actually does a really good job with their Facebook interaction. They do have a lot of conversations with their customers via Facebook. And they're really nice. Their customers really like it. They're very interactive with their customers through their Facebook page. So this was a great way for them to increase traffic to their Facebook page, as well as let their customers know what's going on there. This is one I just got recently, and if that picture of that blueberry tart isn't enough to make you want to follow them on Facebook, I don't know what is. That made me follow them on Facebook. But they have at the bottom of this email They said, get our best baking secrets. And so they told people to stop by their stores and pick up a baking tip. And it says, can't make it to the store? Then like us on Facebook. And then they posted some things on their Facebook page for people to get some baking tips. They have all kinds of information on their Facebook page. And this was an email that actually had information about baking in general. And then at the bottom, they had one of the reasons that you would want to follow them. So instead of having a whole email that was sent out inviting people to follow them on Facebook and telling them what was in it for them, they just had a little piece of information at the bottom of their email. Here's one more reason why you should follow us on Facebook. So that's a nice thing that you could include in any email that you're sending out. An incentive, just a short little incentive in the bottom of your email to encourage your followers or your recipients, to become followers of you on Facebook. So I've talked a lot about what to put in your email and links and graphics. One of the things you do need to keep in mind is the text backup for your email. And there's a lot of reasons that you want to keep this in mind, but I think probably the number one reason is the first thing I have on this slide. Mobile phone use is certainly up in this country and really anywhere in the world, and not everyone has a smartphone. So there's still a number of people who are reading emails on their phone and they get the text version. So because of this, you want to make sure that your text version is something that's easy for your recipients to read, that the call to action is clear, that you have links for them to click on. A lot of the rules that I mentioned earlier apply to the text version, but you want to make sure it's easy for them to read. Make sure your chunks of text are broken up into very small paragraphs. It's hard to read a large paragraph when you're looking at it, especially on a cell phone. But even if you're just looking at the text version in an email client, one big block of text is really hard to read. So make sure it's broken up and that you have links. When you're using our system, you can edit the text version. We do make it for you automatically, but you can go in and edit it. So if you're using the wizard tool, when you're on the page where you're doing all of your edits, at the very top of the page, if you click on email options, just uncheck the box that's auto-generating the text version, and then you'll be able to see that text backup and you can edit it. If you're using the Canvas and the freeform, if you look at the top where you're making your edits, there's a little box that says auto create text backup. And if you uncheck that box, you'll be able to go in and edit your text version. And then one final thing on the text version is that it helps to get your email to the inbox. This might be surprising to some people because I know some of the people who mail through our system really don't like that there's a text version for their emails. But we did have one of our clients start having a problem with their delivery, and our delivery team did some testing with their emails and discovered that some ISPs were filtering out their emails because they were removing the text version. They would just delete everything from the text version and they'd just say there is no text backup, and then they'd have a link to their website. So make sure you have a text backup to also help ensure that your emails get to the inbox. The text backup only shows up if your recipients can't get HTML for some reason. So most of your recipients will see the graphical version, but there are people who are still going to get the text backup. So make sure everything looks good, and at the very least, it will help get your email to your recipients. And here's an example of a nice text email. So you can see they have a link at the top of their email where people can view the email in a browser. Since this is the text backup of the email, if you click that very first link, you'll be able to actually see the graphical version of the email. And then you can see that the text in the email has been broken up into small chunks, really easy to read, and then there's a link that's easy for people to click on if they are looking at it in the text version. One thing to also keep in mind, and this isn't actually for the content of your email so much as to email marketing, but you really should try testing some parts of your email, especially some of the things that I've talked about today, preheader text, maybe what you can put in your preheader text, call to action buttons, what your recipients react to. You know, you can test colors. We actually recently did a color test on our call to action buttons. Again, you may not have noticed it, but our buttons used to be blue and now they're green because we had people click more on our buttons when they were green than when they were blue. So those are some of the things that you can test in your email. But if you want to test things like a subject line or your open rate or click-through rate, something like that, the subject line has an impact on your open rate, how you phrase what's in your subject line. If you put a promotion in your subject line, there's a lot of things that can impact your open rate. One of the things to keep in mind when you do test your emails, if what you want to see is your open rate go up, is that if your recipients, for whatever reason, choose not to turn on their images, they're still reading your email. They could even still be clicking on links, but we're not going to track an open if they don't have their images turned on. So the open rate, you can get it to go up, but it is possible that you have a higher open rate than what is reflected in the numbers just because of how technology works these days. People don't have to look at the pictures to get the information that they want. You can also test the day of the week or the time of the day that you're sending out your email. Generally speaking, people will ask us, when should we send out our emails? And we'll usually say the most common days for emailing is on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and to some extent Thursdays. The reason is that most people are reading their email when they're at work, and those are the days of the week that people are pretty much guaranteed to be at work. So that's usually what we'll suggest. But we don't know your recipients, and your recipients could respond to another day of the week. We've started recently testing sending out some emails on Sundays, and we've had a really good response to that. Part of it is because people are starting to check their email before they go to work for Monday. Part of it is that there's a little less going on in the inbox on Sunday, so the emails could be coming in and people can see that more than they would on a Tuesday. But those are the kind of things that you can test with your email, and I would definitely encourage you to do that so you can find out more about your readers and what it is that they want. I have a little bit more information on the resources slide. We do have some resources on this. This is a webinar that we've done. Actually, I just did it last week, the week before. We do periodically an email or a webinar on testing for your emails. There's also a guide, and there's on the resources slide I have the guide, but we do have a recorded webinar of this. If you want to take a look at that, that's on the webinars page on our help site. So as I said earlier, mobile device use is on the rise, and I was going to talk a little bit about this today. There's actually a webinar next week specifically on what you should do with your emails to ensure that they look good on mobile devices. But pretty much everything I talked about today will make your email work better for your recipients who are looking at it on a mobile phone. You do not have to start from scratch. You don't have to try to create a specific email just for the people reading it on the phone. These are some things that you need to keep in mind for your mobile phone readers, though. Again, text backup is very important. Not all of the smartphone or not all the phones are smart. Some of them are just kind of medium intelligence. So let them see the text version and make sure it's easy for them to read. You want to keep your email slim. 500 to 600 pixels wide is about the widest that you want it to go. I know for some of you that might be a mysterious thing. If you're using our templates are around 600 pixels. Most of them are. Some of them are a little slimmer than that. As long as you don't put any really wide images that push the width of the template so that it breaks and you can see it if it's being broken, this should be just fine. Just using our templates should be fine because 600 pixels reduces really well for phones. It's good to have a logo in your email, especially at the top, because people are going to be pushing on buttons and they may not know if they hit the right one to read the right email, so make sure your branding is really clear. Don't use a lot of images, though. It's hard for people on a mobile phone to see the images that you have, especially if you have a lot, and especially if they're using a Wi-Fi connection, because that can sometimes be kind of sketchy, and it could take a while for big images to download. So again, a balance of text and images is great for mobile devices. This is where your call to action button is going to become really important, because if you think about the space that people have to click on a link in an email, people have fairly large fingers. I have little girl fingers, but even my fingers have a hard time sometimes clicking on links, and if I had bigger manly fingers, it would be almost impossible. But if you're using buttons, the call to action buttons, that makes it very easy for people on a mobile phone to be able to click on. So at least have one of those in your email so your mobile phone readers will be able to click through to your site. And including a link to view in a browser can also help if they're using, especially if they're viewing the text version of the email. They'll be able to see the graphical version in their mobile phone. So this is an example of pre-header text and subject lines on a mobile phone. So this is where your pre-header text becomes a lot more important, is when people are looking at it on a mobile phone. It's important in just a regular email inbox because it does get your email to stand out. But on a mobile phone, you can see the pre-header text. So if you look on the one in the top left, they actually don't have pre-header text. And pre-header text, actually what pre-header text is just the first line of text in your email. So if you don't put anything prior to the heading in your email, then it's the first line of the text. So that's what the first one on the left is just the beginning of the email. On the bottom right, you can see it says, if you are unable to see this message, click here to view. So this is where you probably would want to have something more specific than that. Your subject line should be pretty short for the people who are looking at it on a mobile phone or even on a lot of email clients for that matter. And your pre-header text should be something that's separate from what you have in your subject line. So it's giving additional information. And you probably want it to come before the click to view in a browser link so that that's not the first thing that people see when they're looking at it on a mobile phone. So now, after I talked for about 40 minutes there, I'm going to show you a before and after example. This is an email from one of our customers, and they were doing some things that are absolutely right in their email, and I'm going to show you that. And I took their email and made some edits to it, some of the things that I was just talking about for the last 40 minutes to their email so that it makes it easier for their recipients to see it and to find them on social media and all of the stuff that I talked about today. So this is the before. I had a really hard time taking a screenshot of this, but they have a great logo at the top of their email, and every month they were making a special logo to go along with whatever was going on in the email. So that was really cute. I really liked what they were doing with their logo. They have lots of links in their email. They might have too many links on the left-hand side, but there's a lot of links in the email. So they're doing a great job making sure their recipients can get to their website when they need to. They have a specific item of the month, and they have some bullet points. Bullets are a great way for your recipients to be able to easily scan through what's going on in your email. So they were doing that right, although they're a little wonky in that picture. And then at the bottom of the email here, they have an article that was written by one of the people from their company, and that was published in a magazine, and so they have a reference to that. So they're doing a nice balance of content. So they have some things that is about selling, and then they have some things that's about business in general, so something that their recipients might be interested in, but that isn't specific to selling, which is great. It's good to mix up the content of your email like that. They also have a nice balance of text and images. Even if some of these images weren't showing, and there aren't a ton of images in here, their recipients would still be able to get all of the important information from this email. So they were doing a lot that was right. But here's what I did, and I had to split this up again because it was really hard to get a screenshot. So this is the top of the email, and you can see at the very top I added some pre-header text. They had at the very bottom of their email an announcement of an award that they won. An award is a great thing for you to include in your email, and that's really good for something like a pre-header text because that's going to be something that will really get your email to stand out in an inbox. So I moved that to the top. I set it up as a link, but I linked it just to the article in their email, so it's basically an anchor tag in their email. I got rid of the picture of the tulips because I didn't think that really went with the email, especially since they had a St. Patrick's Day kind of theme. This was from March. This is actually a narrower email than what it was before. It's hard to tell with my screenshot, but it actually is a little slimmer, so it'll work a little better for mobile phones. And then on the left-hand side, I set up a table of contents to make it easy for their readers to get to anything specific that they were looking for. I moved their article to the top because this is actually what their subject line was talking about, was this article. I linked the title of the article. I took out some of the text that they had because they had a big block of text in there, and I just put a couple of sentences. That's really all you need. So the link for the header, or the title of the article, goes to the rest of the article. I added a call to action button, which also goes to the rest of that article, so if somebody wants to read that. And then, again, I had to take another screenshot. I took out some of the links on the left-hand side and just set up a link that says more categories, so people can see what's in stock, but they can go to their website and find out more information. I added the social media links. They're definitely using Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and so they should always be encouraging their readers to follow them there. I also included a forward to a friend link to help spread the word. And I added a link behind the image. You couldn't see that before, and you can't see it now, but it is linked now to this particular item for people to go take a look at. And I fixed the bullets to make it a little easier to read. So it's still the same exact layout that they were using before. It's the same content that they had before. I just added a little bit to it and took a little bit out on some parts, some of the links that they had. But I just added some social media icons, a couple of links, a little pre-header text, and the email is ready to go for the recipients to be able to see this and find them on social media, to be able to click through to their website. So it's just a few little things that you can add to your email to bring it up to date, and again, make it a little bit easier for people who are looking at it on a mobile phone or to find you on social media. So here's some of the resources. Just like my screenshot of my email, I had to split these up because I apparently had a lot that I wanted to share with you. So first of all, these are resources that you'll see frequently when we do our webinars. The VR Marketing Lounge is our forum for people who are using our system and email marketing in general. And you can go and talk to other people. You can post questions and they'll answer. You can answer other people's questions. You can see tips and things there. So it's a great resource, and it's free, and it's in your account. You can just click on the community tab in your account. The help site, help.verticalresponse.com, can help you do a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, as well as that's where the recorded webinars are, so you can go find that there. But the help site has videos and text tutorials to do just about anything that you need to do. So adding links to your emails, adding images to your emails, there's help on our help site for that. Our vertical response blog, really good resource for you, especially on a lot of the stuff I talked about today, because we talk about that on the blog. And that's blog.verticalresponse.com. There's lots of tips for email marketing in general, in addition to the things that I talked about today. And a couple more. In case you wanted to see the buttons link again, it's performable.com/buttons. And so you can set up your button how you want it to look, and then just take a screenshot and use that within the body of your email. We do have a webinar coming up next week called Facebook for Your Business. That's next Friday. So if you've set up Facebook for your business but you haven't really gotten into it, this will be a great webinar for you. We talk a little bit about what you can do with your Facebook account, and then also a little bit about email marketing and your Facebook, a little bit like I talked today. And then I promised information on guides. This is our guides page, verticalresponse.com/education-support/guides. You can go just to our website, verticalresponse.com, and click on education, and the guides page will be one of the options that comes up. So it's pretty easy to get there. You don't have to memorize this URL. But these are some of the guides that you might want to take a look at. I talked about testing. Testing is really important to see how your recipients react. So you can start adding some of the things I talked about today in your email, but you're not going to know how your recipients are responding to it if you're not doing some testing. And then integrating social media and email checklist is just kind of a checklist that you can go through to make sure you have all the right information in your email. And top email creation tips. So those are some of the guides. There's lots of guides there. I'm sure if you go there, you'll find something else that you find really interesting. They're all free, so you can go and download the ones that you are interested in finding.